Hi friends, welcome again to my channel, Dr. Great. So today we are going to see about a random video that is about the DNA, which is also called the genetic material. Actually, I was supposed to speak or discuss on the topic glycolysis part 2 that contained the aerobic glycolysis. But what happened is that I also prepared the thumbnail for it and all the video was prepared, but I made it in the portrait mode and YouTube doesn't support the portrait mode. And I took 4 days for it, and I just came to know just a few hours before. So I will be again doing all those things. But now I'm just posting a random video because I was supposed to post this within 2 or 3 days after the video. So now we are going to discuss about DNA, and let's move on to the topic.
But before going to the video, please subscribe to Dr. Great and press the bell icon to receive the latest updates.
So coming to the general features, the first thing is that what is DNA? So DNA is basically a polymer of deoxyribonucleotides. So it's made up of deoxyribonucleotides. And if we want to measure the length of the DNA, like we know that DNA is like this, yeah, like this double helix structure. So if we want to measure the length of the DNA, then we have to see the number of nucleotides. The number of nucleotides gives us the length of the DNA. So what are nucleotides? So the nucleotide is the basic building block of nucleic acids. It means that nucleotides combined together, like if this is a nucleotide, so nucleotide plus nucleotide, it will form a nucleic acid. And that is we call as deoxyribonucleic acid, then ribonucleic acid. So in case of DNA, if you see DNA, it is deoxyribonucleic acid, and in case of RNA, it is ribonucleic acid. Actually, it's a simple thing. Like deoxyribonucleic acid is present in DNA, and ribonucleic acid is the nucleic acid of the RNA. Now, the nucleotide is made up of three components. The first is the nitrogenous base. So, the nitrogenous base can be purine or pyrimidine. We're going to see it in the next slide. And the second one is the pentose sugar. So, pentose sugar like deoxyribose in case of DNA and ribose in case of RNA. So, the pentose sugar for DNA is deoxyribose, and for RNA it is ribose. And one more thing, that is phosphate group. So, the nucleotide is made up of nitrogenous base, pentose sugar, and phosphate group. These three components combined together form the nucleotide. Then what do you mean by nucleoside? Nucleoside is just the combination of two components, that is the pentose sugar and the nitrogenous base. You can also say that the nucleoside is the whole nucleotide minus the phosphate group. So if you remove the phosphate group from the nucleotide, then what you get is the nucleoside. So finally we can say nucleotide, that is tide, T will come in it. So nucleotide is made up of three components, that is the pentose sugar, the nitrogenous base, and the phosphate group. Whereas the nucleoside, that is the S thing, SIDE, will just have two components, that is the pentose sugar and the nitrogenous base, and it will not have the phosphate group in it. Therefore, we also say that the nucleoside is nucleotide minus the phosphate group. So nucleotide minus the phosphate group will give us the nucleoside. So we saw that the nitrogenous bases are present in both, that is the nucleotide also and the nucleoside also. But there are two types of nitrogenous bases. One is the purine one and another one is the pyrimidines. So the purine, we have the adenine, guanine, and for the pyrimidine we have cytosine, uracil, and thymine. So under purine, the adenine and guanine will come, and then the cytosine, uracil, and thymine will come. So 2 for purine and 3 for pyrimidine. So if we see the DNA, we get to know that cytosine is there, thymine is there, adenine is there, and guanine is there. These four nitrogenous bases are present in the DNA. And in RNA also, we have the adenine, guanine, cytosine, but uracil is not present in the DNA, whereas thymine is not present in the DNA. So that is the reason why we have three types for the pyrimidine, whereas only two types for the purine, because purine, that is adenine and guanine, are same for both of them, so we don't need to just remember them, because by default they are going to be present in both, that is the DNA and RNA. But the thymine and the uracil are the different components. Even cytosine is also not to be just remembered, they will get remembered as practice goes on. But we have to be really careful about thymine and the uracil, that RNA contains uracil and DNA contains thymine. So it is important in the transcription, translation, in the protein formation. So when there is a transcription, replication, and all the processes, we need to just make sure that we don't make mistakes. That is the reason that DNA contains thymine and RNA contains uracil. So if you see this diagram, most of the books, or mainly the NCERT books, has this diagram, and it's a little bit confusing. And above this diagram they have an explanation for it, like how the bond is joined, how this is joined, how that is joined. So even I was confused with it. So to make understand that how does it works, I just made a diagram of it. So first of all, let's remember that this is the main part, that is the sugar. The pentose sugar is the main part. Why we call this as the pentose sugar? Because it has a ring form structure that is like this, and it contains 5 sides. See, 5 sides: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So these 5 sides are there. That is why, and we can say pentose. So 5 carbon. So 5 sided. So 5 carbon are there. That is why we call this as the pentose sugar. So in one side it is attached to the nitrogenous base, and in one side it is attached to the phosphate. So the pentose sugar is attached with the nitrogenous base also, and also the phosphate group. So the bond that bonds the nitrogenous base and the pentose sugar is N-glycosidic linkage. Because the exam they can ask this. So the bond between the nitrogenous base and the pentose sugar is N-glycosidic linkage. Whereas the bond between the pentose sugar and the phosphate group is the phosphoester linkage. We can remember this by saying that N for nitrogen and G for glucose. Glucose means sugar, and sugar here is the pentose sugar. And another thing, phospho. Phospho means phosphate. Phosphate. Then ester, we can consider this because the estrous bond, that is the sugar. Therefore, the phosphoester linkage. So the bond between the nitrogen and the pentose sugar is the N-glycosidic linkage, and the bond between the pentose sugar and the phosphate is the phosphoester linkage. Then one more thing is there. That is, this whole thing is that we're seeing now. The whole thing that we're seeing is the whole thing, like this whole thing. There's 3 components. This is the nucleotide. That is the nitrogenous base, the pentose sugar, and then the phosphate group. The 3 components combine together to form the nucleotide. If we consider these 2 components, if the nitrogenous base and the pentose sugar, then we get this as the nucleoside. So this nitrogenous base and the pentose sugar will constitute the nucleoside, and these 3 components will constitute the nucleotide. That's why they say this nucleotide, that is the whole nucleotide, minus the pentose sugar. If we remove this, let's scratch this off, will give us nucleotide. Nucleotide, that is these 3 components minus the phosphate group, gives us the nucleoside, that is the nitrogenous base and the pentose sugar. So now we are seeing that this is one nucleotide and this is another nucleotide. So the linkage between them, or the bond between them, is this one. This one. So this bond is called as the phosphodiester linkage, more exactly 3,5 phosphodiester linkage. So the bond or the linkage between the pentose sugar of the one nucleotide, okay, and the phosphate group of the other nucleotide. You can also ask the questions like this, is the phosphodiester linkage. Remember that what are they asking? They can ask pentose sugar of one nucleotide and the phosphate group of the same nucleotide. If they ask a question like this, then the phosphoester linkage is the answer. The phosphoester linkage is the answer. And if they ask the pentose sugar of one nucleotide and the phosphate group of the other nucleotide, if they ask like this, then the answer will be 3,5 phosphodiester linkage. Because in nervousness we may answer wrong, so we have to be clear with the concepts and we have to be cool. And same, the phosphate group of the same nucleotide and the pentose sugar of the same nucleotide is combined by, or the linked by, the phosphoester linkage. So the pentose sugar of one nucleotide and the nitrogenous base of the same nucleotide is linked by the N-glycosidic linkage, that is this one, N-glycosidic linkage, and the pentose sugar of the one nucleotide, and phosphate group of the same nucleotide is linked by the phosphoester linkage. But the pentose sugar of the one nucleotide and the phosphate group of the other nucleotide is connected by the 3,5 phosphodiester bond or linkage. Now coming on to the point that how this DNA was discovered. So first DNA as a genetic substance as nuclein was mentioned by Frederick Mister in 1869. So first he only suggested that there is a thing called as DNA and it is a genetic substance and meaning it is acidic, and he stated it as nuclein and said that this is the only genetic matter that is present in the human beings. But it was not considered or it was not taken because the DNA at that time they didn't know that how was the structure of the DNA and how was it extracted, how did it do all the jobs and all, and they even didn't know that was it a double helix structure or a single helix structure. They didn't know was it an helix structure or was it like straight structure, because the main thing was he showed that yes, DNA is there, but he couldn't isolate them. He couldn't pick them up and show it to the committee or the people or the other scientists. So there was no proof for this. So that is the reason why his theory was rejected. So in 1953, the James Watson and Francis Crick discovered the DNA and mentioned them as the double helix structure. So they were discovered as a double helix structure that is present here, and it was on the basis of the X-ray diffraction method. And for this, in 1962, so they in 1962 they were awarded. Sorry, 1962 they were awarded Nobel Prize for the discovery of the DNA. And actually, it was not their discovery. It is said that it was Friedrich Mister and another one scientist who was to be given this Nobel Prize. But Francis Crick and James Watson, they were tricky enough and they mentioned themselves as they discovered the DNA. And also, the DNA has equal number of adenine and thymine residues as well as the guanine and cytosine residues. And this is called as the Chargaff's rule. So the Chargaff's rule states that the adenine plus guanine residues are equal in number as that of the thymine and cytosine residues. So this is the Chargaff's rule. And in one more way, it is stated as the ratios between the adenine and thymine and guanine and cytosine are constant and equal to 1. I'll repeat it once again. The ratios between the adenine and thymine, that is these two parts, and guanine and cytosine are constant and it is equal to 1. So how can we mathematically represent this? So it is represented by adenine by thymine equal to cytosine by guanine equal to 1. This is how we represent mathematically, because this is equal to this. So they both are constant. That is why it is equal to 1. So now we are going to see about the hierarchy of genetics, like what are the constituents in a sense. So consider this book as the chromosome. So this book is the chromosome. So when we divide this book into two equal halves, that is this one half and this one half, so let us consider this half. So this half will constitute the chromatid. Okay, so this is the chromatid. So the chromatid is the half part of the chromosome. So like the book that is being divided into half is the chromatid. And the center of this is the centromere. Like we can see that for this line, this middle line is the centromere. So the chromosome is the book, and if this book is divided into two equal halves, then this becomes the half part becomes the chromatid, and the center line of the book becomes the centromere. Then again, if we go further, this book has sentences in it. So the sentences that are present will be the DNA. Okay, so like we can say, to those who inspired it and will not read it, this is the DNA. And inside this there will be different words, like inspired we can say from here. So from here we will take inspired. So inspired is a different nucleotide. Okay, and then the read we can say, and read is a different nucleotide. So inspired is a different nucleotide and read is a different nucleotide, and when they are combined by a bond, that is the phosphodiester bond, then they are called as the dinucleotides. So now here when the inspired and read will be joined, consider this inspired as a one nucleotide and read as another nucleotide, and when they will be combined or linked by the bond 3,5 phosphodiester linkage, then they will be called as dinucleotide. So here we can see read is a word, inspired is a word, and it's linked by 3,5 phosphodiester linkage. So this forms the dinucleotide. So now let us see the structural features of the DNA. First we will put down the points, and then we will be discussing about each point individually. So first is, it is made up of two polynucleotide chains. Then the backbone of this DNA is the sugar phosphate, and the base, that is the nitrogenous bases, are projected inside, that is towards inside. Then the two chains are having the antiparallel property or a polarity, antiparallel polarity. Then the bases are paired, like they are attached. The bases are paired through the hydrogen bond, and when these bases are paired via the hydrogen bond, then these are called as base pairs. Then we will see that the adenine and thymine are bonded by two hydrogen bonds, and the cytosine and guanine are bonded by the three hydrogen bonds. Then the coiling, that is in right-handed fashion. Then the measurements, that is the pitch of the helix, then number of base pairs, then distance between the two base pairs, and then at last the width. So the first point is that they are made up of two polynucleotide chains, or we can say they are having two strands. Like this is the first strand or the first polynucleotide chain, and this is the second strand or the second polynucleotide chain. The second point is they have a sugar phosphate which acts as the backbone. So to demonstrate that the phosphate and the pentose sugar forms the backbone, we have this implied structure. Actually it is not coiled, it is made for just understanding purpose. So what we see here is that there are nitrogenous bases here, so it is clear. But where are the other two components? So the other two components, that is the sugar phosphate backbone, like we have stated here, the sugar phosphate backbone is present in these two strands. If we magnify them, the two components, that is the sugar and the phosphate backbone, will be seen in these two strands. The diagram is very well explained, because the diagram is not drawn by me, it's drawn by my friend. So because I am not good at drawings, so thanks to my friend for these drawings. So this is the sugar phosphate backbone, and this is the nitrogenous bases. So it is clear that the sugar phosphate backbone is present in these two strands. The third is that the bases are projected inside. It is very much clear. The next is the two chains have anti-parallel property. Anti-parallel polarity. So what does this mean? Like the simple meaning of this is both the strands are anti-parallel to each other. So from here we can see that if this is the 5' side and this is the 3' side, then ultimately this should be 5' and this should be 3' in order to call it parallel, because two parallel lines are called as parallel only when they are of same size and they have the same characteristics. But here what we are saying is the 5' is opposite to that of the 5' of the other strand, and the 3' of the first strand is opposite to the other strand. So in this condition we call this as anti-parallel. So the simple meaning of this is that the strands and the namings are not in coordination, they are opposite to each other, therefore they are called as anti-parallel polarity. And this 5' and 5', these are the polarities. The next point is the bases are paired through the hydrogen bonds, that is H bonds, and then they are called as base pairs. So what does this mean? So here we are seeing two nitrogenous bases. So these nitrogenous bases are separated. Now just consider they are separated now, like this is guanine and this is cytosine. But when they come and when they form a DNA, then they form 3 bonds between them, and when these 3 bonds are formed, they are then closely bonded, and these 3 bonds are the hydrogen bonds. So in that condition we call them base pairs, BP, base pairs. So this is 1 and this is 1, they both combine and they become pairs, that is base pairs. In the similar way, when the adenine and thymine are bonded by 2 hydrogen bonds, then they are called as base pairs. The simple meaning is this only. So here also it is shown A and T bonded by, that is adenine and thymine bonded by 2 hydrogen bonds, and cytosine and guanine bonded by 3 hydrogen bonds. The next point is they are coiled in a right-handed fashion. So what do you mean by this right-handed fashion means? It means the coiling is done towards right hand side always. The starting of the coiling is always in the right hand side only. Then we come towards the measurements. The pitch of the helix. So what do you mean by the pitch? A pitch is just one complete turn of the helix. Like if we start from here, then it will come like this, and here. So this whole thing is called as a pitch, and the length of the pitch is 3.4 nanometers. So what is the pitch of the helix? The pitch of the helix is nothing. It is simply the whole one turn of the helix forms the pitch. And if you calculate, each pitch of the helix has 10 base pairs. So the distance between the two base pairs is 0.34 nanometers. Like if we zoom in, we can see that this base pair and this base pair are having a distance of 0.34 nanometers. Simple. Or we can show here that the distance between these two base pairs is 0.34 nanometers. And if we add again 3 more base pairs, then this will be called as a pitch of the helix. Like it will contain 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So 10 base pairs are there. So 10 base pairs in one pitch, and one pitch is 3.14. So if there are 10 base pairs in this, then overall it will be 3.4 nanometers. And the last one is the width, and which is shown here, that is 2 nanometers. And we can show here also, like the width is 2 nanometers. So this is the width, and with this we complete the DNA and its features. And the glycolysis part 2 will be coming very soon. I'm working on it and I will be uploading it soon. So with this we end this video, and thank you fellas for watching my video. And if you like the video, please subscribe it, like it and share it and support us, and stay tuned till our next video comes. Thank you once again.